William Blake just kind of really weirds me out, and I think that's understandable. That's it. That's all we're gonna. That's it. We're here to talk about the Tyger today. Um, William Blake, Songs of Experience. We're here to talk about one of the poems that asks one of the most sort of pressing religio-philosophical questions, if there are pressing religio-philosophical questions. Can God create evil? If he can, is he just? If he can't, is he God? We're going to talk about a little bit of a different version of that question today. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in 3 separate playlists here on the channel. Number 1 being the Poetry Discussion playlist, now cruising towards 700 videos strong. Number 2 is the 30 Must-Read Poems playlist, a playlist of which I'm fairly proud thus far. And number 3 is William Blake, a William Blake playlist here on the channel. This video will have 3 separate sections. From here, we will go into a bio, after which we will spend a few seconds talking about the types of poetry that William Blake is known for, and then we will get into a reading and an analysis of Tyger, the Tyger, Tyger, Burning Bright, by William Blake. So, who was William Blake? William Blake was born November 28th, 1757 in Soho, London. For context, this is the same year that Alexander Hamilton was born, and the same year that the Catholic Church went back on banning the works of, for example, Galileo, a major win for heliocentrists. They have yet to come clean on their crimes against the cooliocentrists. Also, there were major developments in the Pomeranian War this year. His father, James, was a hosier, not a hosier. It means he made legwear. His mother, Catherine, was a homemaker and played a major role in his education and the education of Blake's 4 siblings. He would have had 6 siblings, but 2 died in childbirth. He took to both the Bible and engraving at a young age, and in 1772 the engraving earned him an apprenticeship which would last until he was 21 years old. In 1779, Blake enrolled at the Royal Academy and earned his first exhibition in 1780. In 1782, he married Catherine Boucher. She would go on to engrave and color for him, which just goes to prove the couple that engraves together stays together. Blake would publish poetical sketches in 1784. In 1789, Blake debuted Songs of Innocence, composed of 23 poems and 31 etched plates. In 1791, he illustrated the original stories from real life for Mary Wollstonecraft. In 1794, Blake came out with Songs of Experience, which was itself composed of 26 poems and 27 etchings. In 1880, Blake moved to Sussex and concentrated on illustrations, but by 1804 he moved back to London to begin work on Jerusalem, the emanation of the giant Albion. It is what was referred to as a prophetic work based on the mythology made up by Blake himself. Jerusalem is often referred to as Blake's most ambitious work, as it is an epic poem in 4 chapters and adorned with 100 engraved plates. In 1826, Blake was commissioned to do illustrations for Dante's Divine Comedy, but Blake would never finish the series. On August 12, 1827, Blake worked on the Dante Commission, sang hymns, painted a portrait of his wife, and died, likely due to liver failure. So, what kind of poetry was it that William Blake wrote? Well, oftentimes he is sort of referred to as having written prophetic poetry, which is not necessarily poetry of prophecy as it was known in religion. It's something a little bit different, but also romantic. He was a romantic. So we're going to go over that. But real quick, the way, look, I know it's not kosher to cite Wikipedia. I understand that. But I wanted a good, clean quote for this, and this was the goodest and the cleanest that I could find. The prophetic books of the English poet and artist William Blake contain an invented mythology in which Blake worked to encode his spiritual and political ideas into a prophecy for a new age. This desire to recreate the cosmos is the heart of his work and his psychology. His myths often described the struggle between enlightenment and free love on the one hand, and restrictive education and morals on the other. Romantic poetry is a poetic movement of the late 18th and early 19th centuries that turned toward nature and the interior world of feeling in opposition to the mannered formalism and disciplined scientific inquiry of the Enlightenment era that preceded it. English poets such as William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, John Keats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, William Blake, and Lord Byron produced work that expressed spontaneous feelings, found parallels to their own emotional lives in the natural world, and celebrated creativity rather than logic. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? William Blake is a very thought-provoking poet, artist in general. And I think that one of my favorite things about his poetry is that oftentimes what it does is it doesn't necessarily incite the sort of literary moment where you are forced to interpret a moment in the poem. A lot of times, what William Blake is doing is he is giving us um, a religio-philosophical sort of problem or quandary with which we have to deal. And in this poem, we have a pretty good one that gives us a truly disturbing vision of God. Now, here is the tiger that goes hand in hand with this poem in Blake's work. So here we have the poem. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? So the first thing we have is the tiger. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night. Burning bright is sort of a questionable phrase. What do we mean by burning bright in the forests of the night? Well, we'll get that in a couple lines, but the very next line, What immortal hand or eye? We have introduced the big bad. We have introduced the terrifying animal known as the tiger, and then we are immediately calling into question God himself. What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? So after we get the big bad, we are shown God himself and asked basically, how could God create something this terrible? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings did he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? Basically, what we're being asked here is how dare God? How dare God make this thing? We're really laying into, we're really laying into both the tiger and to God by pointing out the fearsome nature of the tiger. We are calling into question the yielding nature of God, or the lack thereof, right? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? So here, we're getting a more full version and vision of God. This is not God the shepherd. This is not God as a pastor. This is God as a blacksmith. That is a hardened God. Making sure I didn't mark on myself with my pen. That is a hardened God. That is an Old Testament God, baby. That is not Jesus Christ, meek and mild. This is the rough guy. So, that next stanza there. When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? So here we have, okay, so God made this terrible thing. Did he enjoy it? Was this an accident? What was the intent? We're going to get back to intent. What was the intent behind this creation? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Now we're calling into question whether or not the tiger is evil. The lamb comes with its own symbolism embedded. The lamb is the good, right? The lamb is a symbol for goodness. The lamb is a symbol for piety. The lamb is a symbol for being willing to take your shepherding. You're not telling a tiger where to go. There are no tiger shepherds. So you're calling into question, is the tiger evil? You are holding the tiger in contrast to the lamb. The lamb is good. Is the tiger evil? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So, what we're doing here is saying, let's go back up here real quick. What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp, dare its deadly terrors clasp. In this stanza, kind of what we're saying is, we know we're getting to the lamb later, so we will get to the question of whether or not it's evil, whether or not the tiger is evil. Let's assume before then that the tiger is simply dispassionate. Just dispassionately killing. A dispassionate killing machine. What kind of God could create an animal which kills that dispassionately? Like Michael Myers. Michael Myers was a dispassionate killer, right? Didn't wake up and get mad, just woke up and said, well, it's Tuesday, it's time to kill something. That is a dispassionate type of killing. That is the type of killing I think we attribute to a tiger. A tiger is going about its nature and killing. So all of this is leading us to a religio-philosophical question. Is the tiger evil? Is the tiger dispassionate? If the tiger is held in contrast to the lamb, we're kind of attributing it a bit of evil. There is a classic religio-philosophical question which goes like this. Can God squash all evil? Snap his fingers and get rid of evil. Can God do this? If he can, and he does not, because we can look outside and see that he does not, then he's not just. If he cannot snap his fingers and get rid of all evil, then he's not God. Not as we would define today God. So, in order to really get down into the weeds with this question, we have to define the word evil. What does evil mean? Terrible things plus intent equals no justice, right? That's kind of the, there's no justice in mind during the act. I guess maybe the equal sign comes later. So intent of the unjust. An unjust intention makes evil. So when we're doing this, when we're asking this question, intent plays a role. You get into a car wreck, that's not evil. There's no intention. You step outside your door and you fall down the steps outside. There is no evil at play. You screwed up. There was no intention there. It's not unjust. It's just something that happened. You step outside and your neighbor sticks his leg out for you to trip. Well, now we're in the realm of evil. There is an unjust intention behind it. So, in this poem with this tiger, we get around to asking, is it an out, quote unquote, for God, if that tiger has no intention? Right? If there is no intention to this tiger, how can it be evil? It is simply working by its nature. It's not evil. Tiger has to eat. Like Galactus in the Marvel comic books. Serves a purpose. Galactus wasn't evil. He had to eat planets in order to satiate his hunger, but also it was kind of like the universe recycling itself down at the bottom of things. That's how the tiger is. The tiger doesn't go out and say, I'm going to ruin um, some rabbit's day. Just gets hungry and it's got to eat. So, if there is no intention of the unjust, there is just the terrible thing. The tiger is like a constant car wreck. There's no evil there. So, the God who created the tiger is not doing anything evil, is not doing anything unjust, is not doing anything wrong. But then we have to, by logic, take things out one step more. You know, there's about 1% of people that are born psychopaths. They are intending to do wrong, allegedly. They are sometimes doing bad things in unjust ways. But that's just their nature. That's just their physiology. They did not intend to be the person who intends to do bad things. Can we hold that against them? All of this stems from, if that tiger is so fierce, how could it have been God that dared to make it? That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.